Hi, and thanks for tuning back into this channel. Today, I want to do something a little bit different and open up to you some of my own business operations. I want to show you how I have managed to successfully deploy artificial intelligence within my own business to automate some of the more mundane tasks that I do on a monthly basis, saving me around 4 hours a month. And this is only due to scale as my business scales. What am I talking about here? Well, to give you some context, it's best to give you an overview of my businesses and what each of them does. So first of all, there is Datacentric. And if you're watching this channel, you might already have some clues as to what we do at Datacentric. So those of you that are new to the channel, Datacentric is a content creation business that provides AI technical deep dives through blogs, technical videos, online courses, and also partnerships through hackathons where we work with partners to deliver AI technical content and workshops to aspiring AI engineers. The other business I have is BrainCube. BrainCube is an AI transformation business where we work with clients that are looking to embed artificial intelligence into their business processes. Looking at BrainCube first, it surprised me how many clients that I was working with that came to me with AI use cases that were literally just chatbot applications. Now, there's nothing wrong with chatbot applications. They can be useful for a whole range of use cases, things like question answering or even some kind of intelligent assistant. But what I was finding with a lot of these clients is that where they required a chatbot or where they wanted a chatbot, they missed out on opportunities or overlooked opportunities for simpler implementations of AI that could indeed save them hours of work. That's why I've decided to open up my own business and show people how I have deployed artificial intelligence to save me hours of work. The remainder of this video, I will be building for you live the automation pipeline that I've used that saves me 4 hours of work monthly on my subscriber outreach. As always with these videos, there will be a technical blog that accompanies this. And as soon as it is published, I will be linking it in the description to this video. So stay tuned for that. Before I walk you through the automation workflow, I want to talk a little bit about the manual workflow that I was doing prior to automation that was taking me around 4 hours per month. So if you go onto the Data-Centric Solutions website and you sign up for the AI engineering course, you will be presented with a form like this. So it's a pretty standard form. You'll be asked for your first name, last name, email address, and then there's two questions to find out a little bit more about your interest in AI engineering. So the first one specifically asks about what intrigues you about AI engineering, and the second asks about your current experience with large language models. Once you've completed the form in full, you can submit this form. So when a prospective student submits this form, I will receive an email to my inbox that looks something like this. So hopefully you can see on screen under step 2. So this email will contain the prospective student's first name, their last name, email address, and then also some information about what aspects of AI engineering intrigue them, and some information about their current experience with large language models. Prior to automation, what I was having to do was two things. So first, extracting the emails from this email address. So what I mean is the email of the subscriber from this email address and adding that to a contact list. And then further adding that to an email outreach or a mailing list, right? And if any of you have ever used Google Contacts or Gmail, you'll know how painful this process can be, especially when you've got a large volume of emails that you've got to work with. The second thing I would do is once I've added all my subscribers to my mailing list, at the end of the month, I would send out an email to all of those newly subscribed students to say basically something along the lines of, thank you for subscribing, welcome to the course. This is what we will be covering in lecture 1. And that email that I would send out was pretty generic. It would obviously have to wait till the end of the month before I had time to do it, by which time the student probably forgot that they signed up for the course. Obviously, this manual workflow wasn't working for me anymore, and I decided that it was time to automate. So next, I'm going to jump into exactly how I did this automation. We'll look at the high-level end-to-end automation first. I'll talk through the tools I used, and then I'm going to build the same workflow for you live on screen so you know exactly what it takes to build the type of automation I'm talking about. Okay, so let's talk through the automation workflow at a high level. What I use to create this automation workflow is a tool or a platform called Zapier. Zapier is really, really useful, and it's an intuitive way to connect disparate applications. So as you can see, I have a 7-step automation workflow, and I'm able to connect between Gmail, Google Contacts, and OpenAI's API to create that end-to-end automation workflow. That means that instead of running that subscriber outreach email process that I showed you earlier, literally when an email lands in my inbox, so you can see that at the top here by the trigger, it processes through this automation workflow and delivers a personalized email to the subscriber, welcoming them onto the course and giving them a personal message about how the specific lecture will benefit them based on their experience with large language models and also their interests in AI engineering. Now, this has indeed saved me 4 hours a month in manual workloads. And as I mentioned before, as this business scales and as I get more subscribers onto the course, that benefit will increase. So hopefully that workflow is clear to you, but it will become even more clear once we build this out live. So let's get into building out this workflow live as the next step. Okay, so let's step through the process of actually creating this automated workflow in Zapier. Now, for any automated workflow, the first step you want to take is to actually create a trigger. A trigger is simply an event that occurs that kicks off the automated workflow. So for my application, the trigger is receiving an email in my inbox telling me that somebody has subscribed to the AI engineering takeoff course. So naturally, the trigger step is going to start with Gmail, and we can do this by selecting the application Gmail here. Great. So we are now in with Gmail, and the next thing we want to do is to actually select an event. So the trigger event is going to be receiving the email. So we can do that by selecting new email. Great. Once we've selected new email, we'll be prompted to continue. And Zapier tends to follow this same workflow for any application that you build into your overall workflow. So you'll be asked to continue, and then you'll be asked to sign in to your application that you've selected. So in this case, it's Gmail. Great. Now I have already signed in, so I'm just going to hit continue and move on to the trigger itself. So in the trigger tab, what you want to do is direct yourself to the inbox that you will be receiving your email from subscribers. So for me, in this case, it is actually a subscribers inbox that I've created. So if you're doing it this way, you'll want to create these inboxes beforehand in your Gmail. If you're using Outlook, you want to follow a similar process to create an inbox for your customer communications or subscribers' emails. Then you can hit continue. So lastly, you want to test each step that you build into your Zapier application. The test has already run in this case because I hit continue on the trigger phase. So let's see the email that we've actually pulled in. Now, this is obviously a dummy email because I don't want to expose any personal customer detail. So let's just have a look for your information to see what has been pulled in from the inbox. And as you can see, we have an email from a subscriber, Jane Smith, who is a fictional person in this case with a fictional email. So that's great. We know that our trigger is working well. And the next thing would be to continue on with this record and start building the next steps. Step 2 in our automated Zapier workflow is to actually extract the subscriber email from the body of the email we receive when a subscriber signs up to the AI engineering takeoff course. And we can do this really easily natively in Zapier by simply using one of their tools. So we will search for the format tool, and we can see here formatter by Zapier. Once we have that selected, we want to, again, choose an event. So hopefully this workflow is starting to feel a bit more familiar. The event here is related to text because we're trying to extract an email from text data. So we'll select text, and then we'll continue on, and then we'll move on to the action. So notice we didn't have to sign in here because this tool is native to Zapier. So the action we want to take is to extract an email address, and that's labeled as a transformation here. And the input value is the body of the email itself. So that is the email we received once Jane Smith, who is our fictional student, has signed up for the course. We received that email, and we can insert that into this step so that we can extract Jane Smith's email from the body of the email we received to the inbox. One thing to notice here is how seamlessly data flows between the steps of our workflow. And that's one of the really good things about Zapier, and makes it easy to connect up disparate applications. Once we're finished here, we can just hit continue and move on to the test phase. So we can run the test. Let's test the step. And as you can see, we have been able to extract Jane Smith's email from the body of the email, which is just this email address here. Once we're happy that our test step has been completed, we can move on to creating the next step in our Zapier application. Just a small tip before I move on. When you're running a test, what you want to look for is this green tick. That shows that the test has been complete, but you also want to validate the output of the test and make sure it is what you're expecting. In this case, we are expecting an email address to be returned, and this is the specific email that we are expecting to be returned. So it's all good on this side. Let's now move on to step 3 of our Zapier automated workflow. In step 3, we will start introducing some artificial intelligence components. And specifically what we're looking at here is the use of function calling. We will be using function calling to extract some of the data from the unstructured email, which is the email we receive when a subscriber signs up to our AI Takeoff engineering course. We'll extract things like the subscriber's first name, the subscriber's last name, and also the information they provide on their interests in AI engineering, and specifically why, or specifically what they have currently studied, or what they currently know about large language models. We'll extract that and provide some extractive summary. So let's jump into that step. Now, it's easy enough to do. All you want to do is go to add step here. And this time we're looking for an AI component. So we'll search Chat GPT. So as with the previous steps, we want to select based on an event. So the event we're looking for here is the function call. And as you can see, it says extract structured data from unstructured text. Now, function calling is a really useful tool that is available through OpenAI's API. If you do not understand function calling, I've already done a technical deep dive on this, and I'll link to that in the description to this video. But at the highest level, you can think of function calling as a way to extract structured data or extract text from unstructured data. And it's going to be really useful for this particular automation pipeline, and hopefully you'll be able to see why in this video. So let's select extract structured data. And then you'll want to press continue. Just like with the previous steps, we are required to sign in to OpenAI to actually utilize their API. So you will need an OpenAI API key, and you'll need a login to do that. So if you haven't already got an account, you should go and sign up for one if you intend to use OpenAI in any of your Zapier automation workflows that you want to build. I have already signed in, so I'm just going to hit continue. And the next thing is to start defining the function call itself. The function call is really easy to define. The first thing we want to do is mention, or we want to insert the unstructured text, and this is obviously coming from the body of the email. So we have that available to us thanks to the ease of data flows between steps provided by Zapier. The next thing we want to do is select the model to use. So I'm going to use GPT-4 Turbo, and you can just select that here by selecting the GPT-4 1106 preview, and that's at the time of recording this video. I'm sure with the speed that OpenAI move, this will be something else in the future. Now, for the temperature setting, you don't want to play around with this, because for function calling, it actually works most effectively with temperature equal to 0. So don't change that setting. The next thing you want to do is write a description of the function call. So this you can think of as an overall purpose of the function call. So here, for our purposes, the function call is to extract customer or to extract subscriber details from the body of an email. So that's the overall kind of high-level purpose of this function call. And then values to extract, we have first name as one value. And then another value we have is last name. And then the final value I'm just going to call about me. And the about me is going to include, or it's going to encompass the information the subscriber provided about their interest in AI engineering and also their current understanding of LLMs that they've also mentioned when filling out that subscription form. So we're going to call that about me. Great. Now moving on to the next steps of the function call, what we want to do is write a description for first name. So the first name is literally the first name of the subscriber. So the first name of the subscriber. So we'll call it that. And that should suffice as a description. And then is the first name required? In this case, yes, it is required. And what data type is it? It is a string, and we can select that. And then what are the possible values for first name? So I've left this blank because it is quite straightforward to pick this out from the body of the email. But in more complex situations, it might help you to provide examples to help the model or to guide the model pick out what you want it to look for in the function call. But for this use case, this is going to be blank. And the same thing for last name. So it's literally the last name. So the last name of the subscriber. And then for the next step, is the last name required? True. Let's just end that with a full stop. And then what data type is the last name? Again, this is a string. So for those of you that aren't familiar with these data types, a string is just a text field, basically. And then we will leave this blank as we did earlier. So the next thing we want to do is we want to add a description for the about me. So this is a little more involved. We want to actually create a prompt here that does an extractive summary of the information the subscriber provided. So we'll write something like this: a summary of the subscriber's experience with LLMs and their interest in AI engineering. So that's what we will provide: a summary of the subscriber's experience with LLMs and their interest in AI engineering. So what that will do is that will pull that information into the about me variable. And this should return as true. So we want this as a required field, and the data type is a string. Okay, so we have actually completed all of the function call parameters right now. And if you are familiar with function calling and you've used the API before, if you've used it programmatically, this stuff should look familiar to you. The next step is obviously to test that function call to see if it actually works. So let's do that by first hitting continue. And then we can see our function call arguments outlined here, along with the information from the email from Jane Smith. So that's all there. And then we can go to test step. So we're actually running the function call. We're actually making an API call to OpenAI right now. And here we go. So what we have is the function call seems to have worked as expected. We have the first name extracted, Jane, last name extracted, Smith. And then we have an about me. And the about me is, I'm interested in how to apply AI in my business. I want to understand how LLMs work. I have used ChatGPT to help me with writing tasks. So that is what I would have expected from this function call. So I can say the test has worked, and we can move on to the next step, which will be actually creating a contact from this information. Okay, so we are about halfway there in terms of creating the end-to-end automation workflow. The next step is to create a contact in Google Contacts. So let's do this by adding a step, and this should be getting rather familiar right about now. And what we want to do is select Google Contacts. And once again, we want to select an event, and the event in this case is to actually create a contact. So let's select that. You'll be prompted to make a sign into the account. I won't do that because I've already signed in. So we'll move straight on to action. So for action, what we want to do is add the first name. So remember, we extracted the first name from the last step in function calling. So we'll move on to that step. And again, notice how seamless it is to actually do this in Zapier. So we have the first name extracted. Then we'll move down to the last name, and we will extract that from the function call. And we have done that in the previous step. So that's the last name. And then finally, what we want to do is create a custom field. So we can do that by scrolling down to custom field. And the custom field in this case is going to be called About Me. And then we can actually add the text that we got from the function call, which is About Me. Great. Now I've just realized I've forgotten to add the email field, which is key really in your Google contacts. If you want to ever contact the person again, you want their email address. So let's go up to email and recall that we extracted the email in the second step in the text formatter. So let's go down to that and we will select the output here, which was the email. And that is pretty much all we need to do to create a contact in Google Contacts. So I just want to talk through a few things about this. So it might look like we're doing this only for one record, but what I want to assure you is that this is actually dynamic. So how Zapier works is it works on the basis of one record as an example. So you can kind of easily test your workflow through these steps. But actually, once you deploy your Zap, I think that's what they call them. But once you deploy your Zapier workflow or your Zapier application, this is dynamic. So this won't just be working for Jane Smith. This will work for any email that hits this trigger, and it will flow through this logic. So that's why you're seeing it like this. Is just for ease of use and to make building apps more intuitive. So that is, if any of you were watching this and was wondering why it's only kind of referring to this Jane Smith, it's because it's working off this as an example. All right, great. So that is it for creating a contact. The next thing we want to do is just hit continue, and we should always test the step. And in this case, what we're looking for is this green arrow, and that will tell us, sorry, not green arrow, this green tick, and that will tell us that we've actually been able to add a contact. Apologies, we've actually been able to create a contact. So in the next step, what we will be doing is taking that contact and adding it to a mailing list. Right. Now we're on to step 5, and we are almost complete with the end-to-end automation workflow. So in step 5, what we want to do is actually take the contact we created in step 4 and add it to a mailing list. So again, we will add a step. And again, we're going to be in Google Contacts. So once again, we're prompted to choose an event. And this time, the event that we want to choose is to actually add a contact to a group. So you should have pre-existing mailing lists before you attempt to do this. I have some set up in my Gmail account. So then let's go to action. And you can see already I have already signed into Google Contacts, so I won't go into that section. Right. So let's choose the contact itself. And this is a really important thing to notice here, right? We actually have to select a custom contact because we want this to be dynamic, right? And the contact we want to select is the one that we created in the previous step in create contact in Google Contacts. So we go to that. And what we want to do is scroll all the way down, and there should be a field here that says it should be something ID. So let's just have a look. There's quite a lot of metadata here. So original ID is what we're looking for, and you select original ID. So if you don't select original ID, what you'll find is that this doesn't work dynamically. So it's a little bit of a quirk in Zapier here, but if you want to update contacts dynamically to a mailing list, you want to first create that contact. This is if you're using Google. So if you're using Google Contacts, you want to create that contact in Google Contact, which follows the manual workflow. And then you want to add that contact to an existing mailing list. So the contact itself is called original ID. So do not add the name as you see it. So I'll just show you what that looks like. A mistake that people make is just to add the first name or even just the email of the contact. Don't do that. That won't update dynamically. Go down to original ID and add that as a contact. Great. Then you select the group. So this is the course that you want to, or this is the mailing list that you want to add this contact to. So I'm just going to select the LLM course waiting list. This is a test mailing list that I created earlier. Great. So then let's go to continue. And the final step is once again to test this. So let's just hit test. And we can see everything has run smoothly. We have that contact added in with all of the information that we added when we created the contact in step 4. So that has worked seamlessly, which is really great. And you can see that here with the confirmation here with the green tick. Let's move on to our penultimate step in our AI automation workflow. And this is going to be yet another AI-powered step where we're going to consult the OpenAI API to actually help us generate a personalized email. So this email is obviously going to be a response to those that subscribe to the AI engineering takeoff course. So let's do that by the usual step of adding a step here. And we want to search for Chat GPT. So once again, we want to select an event, and this time the event that we want to select is to write an email. So we'll go down here and we won't step into the account because I've already signed into OpenAI. Let's go down to action and let's get straight to action. So the recipient name, this is obviously the name of the recipient as we've extracted using the function calling. So that will be Jane. And then the recipient email address, the recipient email address is from the Zapier text formatter. So we'll put that in. And again, just notice how easy it is to have those data elements flowing from one step to another. It just makes things really easy in stringing these applications together. And then from name, so this can be whatever you want. I will just say AI engineering team. Let's just call it that. AI engineering course team. Let's just call it that. And then the email prompt. This is obviously a prompt that you're going to pass to OpenAI to actually generate that email for you. So I have actually prepared one ahead of time, and I'm just going to copy and paste that in and give you a quick glance of that. So here's the prompt I prepared ahead of time. And one thing to note here is that you can actually include data from your email. So from the email that you've received from your subscriber in this prompt as well, which is a really good feature. So I'm going to include that and I'll tell you why I'm including that. So if we go to body plain, so what I'm doing here is I'm including this in the prompt because remember the email body actually has information that is personal to that. Well, sorry, not personal, but it has information about the subscriber, like what their interests are in AI engineering and also their current experience with large language models, which we want to use to write tailored and personalized emails to subscribers in response to them signing up to the AI engineering takeoff course. So that's in there as well within the prompt. That's quite a cool feature, I think, anyway. So the prompt is quite straightforward, really. It's just a basic greeting at the top where the subscriber is personally addressed. There's a link to the course. So this is just a link to lecture 1. There's a personalized message here, and it's tailored based on the body of the email, which is going to have some information from the subscriber in there. So you can see, if I hover over that, you can kind of see what's in there. And then there's the course overview. So this is actually what is in the course, and then relevance to the subscriber as well. And that is it for the email prompt. Let's move out of that section, and then we can choose a tone. So I stated, let's just leave it as a neutral tone. I think there are other options here, formal, casual. So let's leave it as a neutral tone. There's probably options to customize that as well. And body type. So I'm selecting HTML to just enable the use of links because we're going to have a link in there to the YouTube video. So select HTML. The model type. So you can select what model you wish to use. I'm picking the GPT-4 Turbo. And then max tokens. So, playing around with this stuff can make it so that you have a longer or shorter email. So I'm just keeping it at 500 temperature. So for creative writing tasks, or for not creative writing tasks, but for writing tasks, they do recommend the temperature of 0.7. So I wouldn't mess with that. And I wouldn't mess with top P either. So once you've done that, go to continue. And then you can, let's just test this out. Let's just see what happens when we run a test. So again, this is being sent to OpenAI and it's actually taking our prompt and generating a response based on that. And we'll see something delivered back to us in HTML, hopefully, if it works. Great. So it has worked, and we can see it has been delivered back to us in HTML. So we've got the subject, welcome to your first AI engineering lecture, which is great. And then we have some spiel about welcome to AI engineering course. We are thrilled to have you join us on this journey in your first lecture. You've expressed interest to applying AI to your business, and that is what was in the description. So that is great. And we can see the link to the video here and so on and so forth. And then there's a sign off the AI engineering course team. Brilliant. Okay, so I'm happy with the test, and we have a tick here to confirm that the test has run well. We'll move on to the final step of this automation workflow, which will be to actually finally send this email off. So let's do that. It's been a long road, but we've reached the final step of the automation workflow. And you might have noticed that I've already created the step. The reason for that is because I couldn't create this live without revealing sensitive data. So I've created it ahead of time, and I'll walk through what I have created with the sensitive data blurred out so that I'm not revealing any information over YouTube that I don't necessarily want to. Great. Okay. So as you might have guessed, the last step is actually to send that email to the subscribers. So what we're doing is we add a step here, and it's good old Gmail again. And the event this time is to send the email. Once we have selected the event, we'll be taken into account, which I've already signed into. And hopefully, if you're working through a similar workflow, you wouldn't have to step into the account menu again. And then we go down to action. So in the action menu, what we have is we are given the ability to select an email address to send the email to. And as you know, this will be the email that we isolate in step 2 of this workflow. And you can see that already selected here. And don't worry, this is a spoof email. This is a fake email, so there isn't any data privacy leakages here. And then the from email is simply your email address that you're emailing from, and that you can select here. And then the from name, pretty self-explanatory, whatever you want that to be for your workflow. Subject, again, that's pretty self-explanatory, whatever you want that to be for your workflow. So here's where you need to pay a little bit of attention. In the last step, you might recall that we actually selected HTML as the format to generate our email in. So that also needs to be HTML when you are selecting the format to send your email in. So this doesn't mean that the recipient is going to receive the email looking like messy HTML. It just tells the email send function that, hey, the body of the email is going to be received in HTML. So translate that into plain text, basically. And that is exactly what happens here. We select the body as HTML. And when that is sent off to the inbox, it will land as plain text looking nice and neat. The rest of itself is optional. So if you want, you can select an email signature. You have to have one already set up in your Gmail account if you're using Gmail or in Outlook or whatever you're using. And then there's options to add attachments here, which I'm not going to add for this workflow. Once you're done with that, you can go to continue and hit test. So just for sanity, I'm going to retest this step and show you that it does indeed work. So you know it works because you can see this sent item here, and you can also see the green tick to ensure that that step actually has worked. So if you were doing this for yourself, what you would then do is go to the email that you sent from, and you go to the send inbox, and then you look and you can see that the email has been sent from that inbox. Sometimes this can take some time to do, especially if you're making API calls to external services. So be patient, but the send email should be in there if it has indeed worked properly. So that is it. That's the complete end-to-end workflow. What I want to do next is I want to actually show you how that works on a live example. So I'll create a spoof email account, and I will subscribe to our AI engineering takeoff course. I'm not going to be using this application. I'll be using the application that's working behind the form is actually the application I deployed for the business. So you'll get to see how that works with a spoof example. The other thing I want to talk about at the end of this video is the cost of this application. So many of you will be interested in that. You'll be interested in, okay, great, this automation workflow looks great, but is it cost efficient? So I'll talk to you a little bit about the cost of this end-to-end workflow too. Okay. All right, so now that we've seen how we can build that end-to-end workflow, let's actually see what it looks like in deployment. So if we go to the data-centric website, so this is the website for my business that does the online courses and educational content. If I go to the AI course, I'll be taken to a landing page, which is the telling me to register my interest for the AI engineering takeoff course. Okay, so there's a little spiel here about what the course teaches, and then it asks to register your interest. So I'm going to put in a spoof name. So let's say Jason Bourne. Let's do that. And then I've created a spoof email address here. And then let's just mention some aspects of AI engineering that intrigue me. So I'm interested in multi-agent workflows and LLM and applying LLMs for business purposes. Okay. And then let's talk a little bit about the experience. So I have some experience using LLMs through Chat GPT. I would like to understand a little more about how they work under the hood. So that's what I've written out. So Jason, first name, Bourne, with our spoof email address here. And then what aspects of AI engineering particularly intrigue you? I'm interested in multi-agent workflows and applying LLMs for business purposes. And then tell us about your experience with LLMs. I have some experience using LLMs through ChatGPT. I'd like to, I would like to understand a little more about how they work under the hood. Right, so I'm not a robot, and let's just hit subscribe. Great, so it takes us to this page, and it's just telling us that it's going to take some time to arrive in the inbox. So while we're waiting for that to arrive, we can pause and resume back once that email has been generated. Okay, so the email has finally been generated and sent, and it did take a little bit longer than it would usually because I'm using this spoof email, which creates a temporary email. But you can see the email here in my spoof email inbox. So if we step into it, we can see the subject AI Engineering Takeoff Course Lecture 1. We can see the sender AI course team at Data Centric, and we can see the sender email address. So let's view the email itself. So here we go. So it looks personalized in the first instance from a glance. So we can see, welcome to the AI engineering course. Dear Jason, we are thrilled to welcome to your first lecture of our AI engineering course. It's great to have you on board. As you're keen on multi-agent workflows and applying LLMs to business problems, we believe you'll find this course particularly relevant and enriching. Here's the link to the course to get you started. In today's session, we'll delve into seminal Attention is All You Need paper, which is introduced with transformer architecture. This has been pivotal for advancing natural language understanding and text generation. As an AI professional, grasping the concepts behind transformers is crucial, and our lecture aims to make these complex ideas more accessible using weather forecasting analogy. Given your experience with LLMs through ChatGPT, this lecture will not only align with your current knowledge, but also help you to understand the underlying mechanics of these models. This is a step towards upskilling and deepening your expertise as an AI engineer. We are excited to see how you apply these insights in your AI engineering journey. Your participation is highly anticipated, and we can't wait to explore the world of AI together. Warm regards, the AI engineering course team. So there you have it. We have a personalized email generated and automated based on that Zapier workflow. So that is it. That comes to the end of this video. And as I stated, I'd like to just talk to you a little bit about costs. So that whole automation workflow, I guess there are two costs associated with it. So the first cost is the actual cost of subscribing to Zapier. And that will cost you $29.99 US. And I believe that is for the starter plan. So that's at the time of recording this video. Obviously, prices might change by the time you get around to viewing this, but that's $29.99 per month, which isn't too bad considering the hours saved for me and my business personally. There is also the cost of making the API calls, and I calculated it's around 2 cents per subscriber. So that's pretty minimal, given that, we're only doing a couple of one function call and then generating an email. So we're not using a lot of tokens there, and it's quite cost efficient in that sense. So it's a really useful tool. I really like Zapier. I find it very intuitive to use. And I really like the fact that it is connected to over 6,000 applications. So you can imagine the number of business workflows that you can automate and add some AI component to that too. So I'm thinking about things like customer communications and outreach, content moderation, you name it, anything that involves natural language and has an app that Zapier can connect to. You're really in the money for automation with artificial intelligence. Um, and I think that is pretty much it. So if anything, I hope you've come to the end of this video realizing that there's more that you can do with artificial intelligence outside of the standard chatbot style application. And you probably, if I was successful in communicating what I wanted to communicate here, you're probably looking at your own business and thinking, hey, there's areas where I'm just sending out emails that I could probably start thinking about automating with a tool like Zapier or with an approach like how I've showed you today. So thanks for tuning in once again. If you enjoyed this video and if you like the content, please ensure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, share, comment with your own ideas about AI automation too. If you have any, I'm welcome to all comments, and it will be good for anyone else watching these videos. Thank you, and I will see you on the next video.